Good morning, guys. Got a bit of plumbing to do here. The flush on our toilet cistern stopped working. It's been playing up for months, probably longer than that. I've been putting off doing it. Basically, it's not working. I know what the problem is, and so I've been putting it off for months. It's a close coupled system, as it's called, in that the cistern is bolted to the bowl just underneath here and held in place by wing nuts, which over the months I've been spraying WD-40 on to try and penetrate the rust. But last night, well, I tried removing them and they just snapped. Not a big deal because I'd want to replace them anyway because of the state they were in. So that's two nuts. I don't know if we can look up underneath at all. That's where they were, or one on each side. I am lucky in the previous owner has actually fitted a valve just here, so I can turn the cold water off at this point without having to go and find it somewhere else. I'll have to undo that to drop it down so we can lift the cistern up. Obviously the cistern's full of water, so I'm going to have to put some towels around here to allow the water that's in that pipe to drain down, not the whole cistern, just the water in that pipe. Let's see if I can lift this off with one hand. Yep. Okay, next problem, as you can see, the screws there that hold the cistern to the wall are rusted through. Now I put WD-40 on them months ago, but I don't expect that to have helped at all. So I expect when I undo them they'll snap, and I'll have to get this off and then drill those out and replace them. Right, in here, this is our ball cock, in that when the water rises up, that rises up and stops the water coming up the pipe. That's the one that will have some water in it when we release the bottom. Because we can't flush the system, obviously we've got to get rid of all this water, so I'll have to get a pipe and a siphon to get rid of that. I'm hoping that I don't need to replace the ball cock. It might be a short-sighted hope. Might end up having to replace it. The siphon itself, down there on the end of this, is a flap with a bit of plastic on it. And as you pull that up, that flap lifts the water and starts a siphon effect, so the water actually goes down there and into the toilet bowl. And because the bit of plastic, little flap, has probably come loose over the years, this has got to be over 10 years old, because we've lived here for 10 years and I haven't replaced it in that time. So that little bit of plastic has come loose and we've got nothing happening when it's lifting that up. If I do it very fast, there's a very tiny bit of water does get pushed up. You'll see a little bit of movement up here. But it's not doing the full job. So I went online last night and ordered some stuff for click and collect, so I can go and collect from the local hardware store, which happens to be B&Q. So I've got to go and collect that later on after we've had our breakfast. and see if we can do it. So I need a bit of pipe, hose pipe. I've got some down in the garage, so we can siphon the water out of there anyway. Empty that, disconnect that, undo these, which are going to snap anyway. Lift that off so we can get to there's a big nut on the bottom of this that clamps it to the bottom of the cistern. And on that same thing is a oval shaped thing that has the bolts going down, which are the ones that are snapped there. So I've ordered that as well, and the bolts. So that's today's project. That should keep me busy. Right, I turned off the stopcock, or whatever you want to call that. I've been told before it's not actually a stopcock, a valve. So I've turned the valve off with a screwdriver. Just turned it so it's horizontal, the slot, and that indicates that it's turned off. So there's no water flowing in there, and I've also drained down as much as I can using a bit of drain pipe, a bit of garden hose, and a siphon effect. Filled the hose with water and just let it drain straight into the bowl. So now we need to disconnect the pipe up there, just unscrew it. I'm pretty confident I've got some replacement fibre washers to go underneath it, because there'll be a fibre washer sealing it, I expect. Need to try and undo these. I think we can guarantee they will snap when I try and undo them. But before I do that, I'm gonna go and click and collect, or go and collect the stuff that I ordered last night from B&Q. In fact, I couldn't resist trying, and actually those are coming undone relatively okay. So that's positive. Anyway, off to B&Q now, see if they've got what I've ordered. Well, that was unexpectedly efficient, because I've done click and collect. I just turned up at the click and collect counter, gave them the number, and there it was, waiting for me. In fact, it took me longer to drive there because there was a problem on the roundabout with roadworks than it did to actually collect it. So this is our new flush system. Gone for one with a button on it, so we'll be replacing the handle with a button just there. Hopefully it will fit, otherwise everything goes wrong. And then that's the bit that goes up underneath that clamps that to that. And in there somewhere are the bolts and wing nuts that had rusted off on the previous one. So next thing, put a towel under there, undo that, and we should, well, when I've undone those screws a bit further, should be able to lift the whole thing straight off. Right, undone that. We have got water coming out, which we expect, because that's in the pipe going up here, up to there. It's only that water, that little bit of water there. Right, I don't have the tripod in here because there isn't enough room to set it up. So next action will be to just lift that straight up, but we can't film me doing it, so if it all goes wrong, I'll have to film it afterwards. Remember, I've already undone the bolts, the wing nuts, well, they snapped off, that hold that to that. So I should be able to just lift it straight up. Well, that worked out perfectly. Just lifted straight off. Put it down here. I'll lay it on there so we can see the bottom. Although there was a tiny bit of water left in there after me siphoning it out, but I was able to just tip that straight in the sink. Right, the bottom. Right, this piece here is the bit we're going to replace with this piece. Clearly this was steel and it's rusted terribly. This one is plastic. We need to undo that. That will be clamping that in place and also holding the flush into the bottom of the cistern. Right, that's that foam seal. Now I've got to try and get hold of that and undo that. Well, that was particularly difficult to get started. I actually had to put it on the floor and kneel on the cistern so I could actually get leverage on it. I was thinking I might have to cut it off, but eventually it started coming loose. It's because of all that rust. If it was all plastic, it wouldn't have been the same problem. Right, I think I've loosened it enough now. Yeah. So, that bit off. That feller, yeah, that's the real problem. That's all that brown stuff there. It's not what you might have thought it was. It was rust. Yeah. I don't think this brown rust is actually going to cause a problem, and I could leave it. But I'm seeing if I can clean it off using WD-40. I've got some of it off already. Well, I've just spent an unnecessary amount of time cleaning that. I really don't think it was necessary at all because it's not going to be visible. And the bottom of the cistern's just as bad. In fact, it's worse. So I won't go to the same extent. I will clean it off a bit. If we just move. Because the head of one of the bolts was actually still there in the rust. I've tapped that off, but there really isn't much point in doing any more work to that. I'll clean it a bit, but no, not any more than necessary. And then in here, I can't do this with me one-handed, but this will now lift out. Right, that will now lift out. I need to disconnect the handle. Let's just undo that, and we should be able to get it out. Then we'll see if we can fit the new bits. Right, that's the siphon. That's the bit of plastic, the plastic flap that I was talking about. It should go right the way across, so obviously we've lost half of it at least. In fact, it may even be up in the bend there, causing even more trouble. But yeah, the way that works, we're upside down, but when that goes that way, that would actually be lifting a volume of water over. Right, let's show it that way up. When you pull that up, that flap, or that piston actually, comes up like that. That lifts water up over the top of the siphon and starts the siphon running. But because that it's got a dirty great hole in it, because it's all missing, it's as simple as that. It is just a flap of plastic. But because that's missing, nothing happens when you lift that up. So I'll just clean around there a little bit and see if we can get a new one in place. Oh, and take that off, like I said. Right, to get the handle off, we've got to get that lever off there. It was corroded in place, but I've loosened it now using my clamp. Plumber's spanner or something they call that, I can't remember. Anyway, that's loose, so I should be able to get it off if I use two hands. Oh, focus on it might help. Right, so that's the handle. That's the little lever, screw on it. I took the screw off, but that made no effect because it was actually got corrosion all around it holding it in place, so I had to lever it off. But you have to be very careful if you lever it off, otherwise you might crack the corner of your cistern. Right, we're now looking at the bottom of this, and like I said, we've got all this rust around here. I'll try and get some of it off because we do need to get a good seal, but the seal is really in there. But I will try and clean that off. And that's just a big lump of rust there. Well, I couldn't resist having a go. It's not perfect, but that's better than it was, and we should be able to get a seal on that if we're lucky. So now we need to put that in place. Right, this should be fairly straightforward. That bit has to come out through there. The rubber bit goes inside and the plastic bit goes outside, and we also need to fit that fella up there. Just before I put it in, I'll just demonstrate that is the valve now. So when it's up like that, the water flows out. When it's down like that, it's sealed. Very simple. Right, that's how that bit is going to go on the bottom of there with the bolts sticking out. I might just check those bolts are going to go through the right place. Right, it does actually say very sensibly, check for leaks. So that wouldn't be a bad idea, would it? I've got it in place. So I might stand it on end and put some water in there and see if it leaks. Right, leak test was okay. So now this fella goes on there, and then it all goes back in place. Well, everything was going fine. But this is just much too big. So maybe we don't need it. Because if I put that on there, even as hard as I can crush it down, it doesn't go in there at all. And it actually leaves us about a ½ inch gap between there and there because of that thickness. So ideally I would put a rubber ring around there of some sort. I don't happen to have one, so we're just going to have to put it down and hope. Not a very good option. I could put a ring of, I've got some rubber tape around there just to give it something to seal down onto. Might do that. It might not need it at all. Right, mustn't forget to replace the washer. That's always a bad shortcut that I have done in the past. Haven't replaced that in there, so we'll do that. That goes up on there, just there. That's the new washer. Right, button in place. Everything connected back together, screws back in. I've reused those screws because although the tops of them are pretty ropey, the actual screw section is fine. So I'll put them back in. So we're all connected back together. Time to find out if it works. I didn't do any adjustment. I'm now adjusting on the back of the cistern there's numbers to the number of litres at that fill point. So I'm adjusting the overflow. Well, actually I'm just adjusting the overflow so it's up high, so it overflows when necessary. It was actually pushed right down, which I didn't realise when I started testing. So I panicked a bit because it was overflowing when it was right down there. But you just pull this up and then turn it to lock it in position. That's the overflow that I'm talking about. So this should stop in a second. Yeah, I think we're okay. Right, press the button. I think we're okay under there. Well, got a bit of tidying up to do, but I think we've done the job. So that'll do for now. Oh, one last thing, I will just take that apart so we can see the flapper thing inside. Right, downstairs, I've just taken that loop of wire off so that that can come right out. So there we are, that's the flap of plastic, or at least that's what's left of it. It should be the full, cover the full area. And I suspect, yeah, it's actually gone up in there. Yeah, there we are, that's the broken flap. So normally you lift that up, that lifts up a load of water, pushes it up there, over the top, down there, and that starts the siphon action that empties the cistern. Thanks for watching. If you want more information, check down below in the video description. If you like this video, you might like this one up here. And if you want to subscribe, you can check out my channel over here. Up here is my latest video on my channel, and down here is a video playlist associated with the video you've just watched. Thanks again for watching.